You're listening to Bernie Stephan, and this is Ecologic, and I'm excited because today we're talking about something I'm familiar with. Older men who are mostly retired, and they've left behind their meetings, deadlines, even their alarm clocks in many cases. I'm delighted that I have two retirees who's joined me in the studio here today. They have experienced an organization that we're going to talk a lot about, and it's an organization for active men that I just joined last September because I was drawn to it. Let me welcome Neil Wheeler and Mike Requarth, representing SIR. You may not know what SIR is, but it's here in Sonoma County, and we'll tell you more about that as we go forward. Let me introduce each of them a little bit more. Neil is a retired air pollution specialist. He joined SIR in 2021 and participated in many SIR activities. This is branch 17 here in Santa Rosa, the Luther Burbank branch, as a director, a vice president, the president, and currently he's chair of the publicity committee. Welcome, Neil. What does SIR stand for?
Originally, it stood for Sons in Retirement, but we realized that not everybody was retired in SIR, and so we picked up the pseudonym of just SIR to cover it. Not everybody's retired, and not everybody wants to be retired.
Well, I agree with that. I'm partially retired, so I have 1 foot in retirement, and I'm feeling a lot of what that's like. I don't know what it's like to not have work to go to, and I'm actually a little worried about that. Well, anyway, welcome, Neil. And my other guest is Mike, and he's a retired contractor. What kind of contractor?
I was in the asphalt paving maintenance business for 30 years. It's the Santa Rosa, Sonoma County, Marin area.
So if I want to know about asphalt, you're the guy. Mike, you joined SIR in 2022, and you've indicated you have interests in dining out. So do I. Golf, I find that way too hard. Hiking, and this is the serious hiking where you take coastal trails.
Yeah, I've done a lot of hiking and a lot of active vacation trips that involve hiking and biking.
And you're interested in world affairs and investments. And Mike, you're currently the chair of the recruitment committee. Well, welcome, Mike.
Glad to be here.
Recruitment must be going well. I see a lot when we have our monthly meeting and we come together there at the epicenter in a big hall. There's about 100 guys show up?
Yes, probably around 100 people. Every month we have new inductees coming in, and we're one of the few really growing branches of SIR in the whole statewide organization.
Well, I've noticed that, and I'm impressed. So you're doing a hell of a job on recruitment because clearly people are learning about it.
We have a good outreach program, and members tell other members. That happens quite a bit.
Neil, you told us we're mostly retired. Why did you join the SIR organization?
About 5 years before I decided to retire, I started planning my retirement. And I realized something, that most of my friends in my community was around work. And it wasn't local. We didn't have any clients here in Sonoma. Closest was over in San Francisco. A lot of them were international. I was working with people all over, but I realized when I retired, I wasn't going to have those people to be a part of my community. And so I felt like I needed to find some new friends. And I was looking for a book club because I'd had a really good experience with one in Sacramento back about 35 years ago. And I couldn't find one that really fit me, but I did find a small article about SIR. And so I tracked it down to the state site and found out there were branches all over the state. And we had like 10 or 11 of them in Sonoma County. So I started looking at their websites, doing my due diligence as a scientist, making sure that I checked out what they were offering. This was after COVID. A lot of them seemed to kind of collapse during COVID, but Branch 17 caught my attention because throughout COVID, they continued to publish their newsletter, kept their website up to date, and transitioned to using Zoom for our general meetings. And I think that kept the branch alive and kept it really energized, and that really attracted me, so I decided to join.
I appreciate that because you've given a lot of leadership to this organization. When I first saw the sign out at Howarth Park on the way up to Spring Lake, I was walking with my wife, and there was a group of men, and it had this sandwich board, and it said Men's Club. And, sir, I didn't know what that was. But I remember my son, who's now going to be 50 soon, he had talked about when he was 35, 40, joining a men's group just to have others who were in similar life situations to bounce off. And I thought, that's great. I like that he's doing that. That's something I want to do. So I've held in the back of my head joining a men's group for a while. I never acted on it. But when I saw that and it had a QR code and I took a picture of it, that took me to the website. And on the website, I was blown away with all these activities. Poker, bridge, bocce ball, things I got really excited about. Global affairs, book clubs, all these things, some I wasn't going to be interested in, but there were just so many things to take advantage of. And so when I was coming to a meeting, I was impressed with the leadership. You were the big sir, Neil, and I immediately saw how well organized you all were. So I'll talk more about that later. But Mike, how did you come to join the club?
You know, it's interesting. A friend of mine that I play golf with introduced me to the idea. But what I was very aware of was that I felt some sense of isolation, and particularly two good friends of mine. One moved to another country. He moved away, comes back and visits, but he left, long lifetime friend. The other friend, his wife got cancer, and he became really isolated because of her health, and it was during COVID. And so I kind of lost two friends, a short period of time. And I realized that I have to be proactive. I have to really go out and make the effort to meet people. And SIRS is just such a natural way to make that happen. It makes it so easy for guys to connect.
People see that retirement isn't what it was cracked up to be. There's PR that talks about retire and you'll have freedom, and people like to daydream about all the things they're going to do when they're retired. And I realized you better do them while you're young, because when you get old, you don't necessarily want to do those things. Travel the world. And then what I think is hard for a lot of retirees to deal with, and I'm sure it's not just men, but women have that same situation. Work gives you natural groupings with people, gives you responsibilities, things to do, meetings.
Bernie, I think women are better at connecting than men. I think we tend to connect shoulder to shoulder, doing activities, being involved in things. And that's one of the structures that you get from SIR, is it becomes a natural way to create new friends, doing things together like you had in the work environment. So I think that makes it really wonderful for people.
And you bring your work experience so that the organizational skills you've had to do your job, they come with you. You can volunteer them in new ways. You mentioned, Neil, that you started a book club, and that's very popular now, right?
We probably have 25 people who receive our emails about the books. Usually about a dozen show up. We talk about the books, and we also talk about other things. It's not a literary book club. It's a social book club. I was in the situation that I would read a lot of books, and I thought, I wish I had somebody to talk with us, and now I have them.
This is a great way to come together around a shared experience.
And it gives a variety. And you're doing it with friends. We try to have activities and events that keep mature men mentally, physically, and socially engaged. And we know that leads to longer, healthier lives.
That is so true. And there's a little aside that I want to mention. I have senior moments, and I forget names, so I get introduced to people, and it takes me 3-4 times and saying their name to finally get the name. But in this club, I don't have to apologize. Everybody understands. So it's nice to be around people that you don't even feel you have to apologize for, because we understand senior moments.
I think we're all dealing with that. And that's part of the peer group that you get to be involved with. You feel that camaraderie and that consistency in that way. So that makes it really wonderful.
What's your favorite club activity, Mike?
I haven't probably been as engaged in SIRS as I will be in the future, and I still have a lot of other things on the outside that I'm doing, but I kind of look at it like I'm building a foundation for future things. I love to hike, and I haven't joined the hiking club because I'm still out doing other adventures. But I kind of see it like this is a great insurance plan for me. I love being involved with the new members and hearing about their stories. And it's remarkable how consistent and how the new members talk about the need to have connections and not be isolated. And that's just such a strong theme that runs through everybody. And what's great about SIRS, it's not a country club. It's not an expensive thing. It's really just about making connections and then doing activities. And so that provides a really nice thing for people. It opens it up to everybody.
Well, I want to stay on the hiking club for a minute because I joined the walking group, which has a 1 mile up from Howarth Park, up the upper parking lot to Spring Lake where the dam is. And I found that just about right, and back down 2 miles. I try to walk up to 4 miles a day. Then I learned about the hiking group that goes more adventuresome. They will go out to the coast or take on Mount Taylor, which I find challenging, both the altitude and the longer distance. I'm feeling like now I have a target because I want to go on these hikes and explore these trails. And now I've built for myself a little challenge to get to where I won't feel like I'm holding the group up. And unfortunately, we have all of these activities that somewhat overlap. So I went to bridge, and I hadn't played bridge for like 30 years. I had done it when I was a young man and I was commuting and at work. And I always liked the game, and I never found a partner or an opportunity to really go with it. I went to a bridge group at Findlay, but the first game I had a partner, a lady who meant well, but she, after every hand, had to try to educate everybody on how we could have played it better. I couldn't take that. I appreciate a little feedback, and I find here with the SIRS group, they're not giving me a lecture all the time. I feel like I can learn without being overwhelmed or feeling like I'm unfit to join this group.
I think that's a great example of what SIR is not, because at this point, we just don't want to be stressed out, and we don't want to engage in things that are going to be difficult. And that's the beauty of SIR. There really isn't a lot of expectations. It's really something that you just want to do, and you're happy to do it. And there's no pressure in that way. And I think that's one of the great things about it.
I think it is defined by what it is not. We do not fundraise for external organizations. We don't discuss politics, or we try not to, nor religion. And we don't fund other organizations. We don't sell anything.
And it's the cheapest membership. I couldn't believe an annual membership with SIRS is how much?
$25.
Unbelievable. And then the clubs are all free. So you may go out with a group and have to pay your bill for what you eat, but that's usually just to allow there to be a space where you can meet and have a good time. So the rules, I think, are perfect. But in addition to talk about SIRS, which we're going to continue to do for this hour, I want to take a moment just to step back. And we had your two stories of how you anticipated lost friends and recognized with intention. I believe a lot of men just don't give retirement a lot of thought other than, oh, I'll be free to do what I want. And many of us experience a situation, well, what am I going to do now? I need to find a hobby. I need to do something, because we're so used to having a prescribed regiment that retirement feels so odd.
I agree. And I think everybody thinks, well, boy, once I'm not working, it's going to be great. And I think there is a honeymoon period. People travel, they sleep in. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now what am I going to do? The days can get kind of long. And I think that can be a real problem for people. And now they're feeling more and more isolated. And I think a lot of times wives are the ones that are saying, hey, go find something. And you need some structure. Being at loose ends is not a great feeling. Even though maybe you work 40 years thinking that was the end all, And you realize when you get there that you've got to come up with something else.
Yeah, and we're not leaving our wives out of it. Now, we don't all have wives anymore, but the people who do, there is a night out with the wives. Is that popular, Neil?
Yeah, it's quite popular. We get often 30 members at one of those events. My wife always enjoyed it. She told me when we'd be talking to our neighbors at the dinners, she said, I don't understand this, but everybody seems so nice.
Yeah.
And she really enjoyed that because a lot of her career had been in areas that were kind of contentious. And so she enjoyed that too, to hang out with some people who just got along.
Yeah. And that's not the only opportunity where I know that partners are welcome. I go to a thing that I see you at a lot, Neil, and that's the Breakfast Club, where we meet twice a month and we go to different breakfast places. So that changes the venue, makes it interesting, and we just chat about anything. And the invite always says, bring your significant other. It's not exclusive in any way.
And we have two events. We have the holiday party, girlfriends, spouses, also a summer event party where the spouses come in. So we do have some other ways to get them involved as well.
And then there's the guys that just want to go out and have a beer. We got room for them too.
Yeah, we've got a couple events like that. One of the ones that I started last year was beer call. That's a military term. Sometimes beer calls in the military were serious discussions. Sometimes they weren't. They just to get together and have a beer. Ours is more the latter. And some of the other clubs have had them. I figured we'd try it out, and it seemed to be quite popular. And so we just pick a new brew pub every month and go out and have a beer. And we call it Beer and BS.
Yeah, that's like the dining group. It moves around too, trying different restaurants. So if you're new to the area, it's a good way to be introduced to other places.
With the couples night out, I went to restaurants. I've lived here for 25 years, and I hadn't been to them. Sir forced me to go, oh, I like this place. Why didn't I ever go there before? Talking about beer call, we have another beer, wine, and spirits tasting. That's sponsored by George and Bill Traverso, formerly of Traverso's Deli, and they organize these outings. And it is with partners, so you can invite your significant other to go along on these, and they arrange some tasting either at a brewery, a winery, or a distillery. And then they usually go out and have a lunch afterwards.
You
So
mentioned
again,
George.
time to socialize.
I just want to put in a word for him. I know he's been in leadership and he's been a big sir. That's what we call our president, and gone through a number of the jobs. But he was the person who I was assigned to show me around. And we talked on the phone. I came to the meeting. He introduced me to people, bought my lunch, bought me some raffle tickets, and at the end was part of a meeting where we got our orientation. So that idea of connecting us with one of the senior sirs when we first come there didn't leave us just to fend for ourselves. And he was so gentle with me and so nice to me. Let's talk about the meeting that happens once a month. It's a luncheon meeting. It's at the Epicenter that Poppy Bank now runs, and it's at the Victory House restaurant, and we mentioned 100 people show up for that, and we have guest speakers, and I found them interesting. The first one that I really enjoyed was last November. One of the members has been driving electric vehicles a lot, and I said, oh, God, are you going to pitch just for No, he was very fair, very objective. He wasn't selling electric vehicles. He was talking about pros and cons, and I was pleasantly surprised because I was prepared to be disappointed, but wasn't. Another really good one happened this February. Habitat for Humanity for Sonoma County had two speakers come out and told us a lot of the ins and outs and qualifying and what they do. I'm pleased to announce that I'm going to have them on a show here on Ecologic. I'm really big about local and community, and that's why I'm so excited about having SIRS here. It's helping build community. It's helping getting us involved in community. And it's easier for men to sometimes just shy away or do one activity, maybe golf. How many people come out to golf each month?
I know they play at Bennett Valley, which is a great local course, not very expensive, a municipal course. But I'm sure there's 2 or 3 foursomes that probably do that, because I think the golf is still a very popular activity for retired guys. Hey, it pretty much kills the whole day. You can go out, warm up, and play golf, and then go get something to drink. And so it's a great activity for older folks when you've got a lot of more time on your hands.
When I was younger, I bought some golf clubs. I took some lessons. I found it too hard. I gave up. It's a hard sport.
It's ridiculously hard to play, and I will testify to that. It's very frustrating.
Golf is probably the largest activity in the state organization. And it's not just the individual clubs that have golf clubs. There are state tournaments that they can participate in. And so it's a pretty big program statewide.
Smaller communities obviously don't have as many activities to offer. I know that members can come from another smaller group to one of our clubs. Right now, poker is so much in demand that our 2 tables we're almost having to turn people away and can't bring in more. And we're looking on how to get more people involved. I love poker. We have it once a month, and I used to play, and I just want to assure people this is kind of low stakes poker. We get $15 worth of chips, and the largest bet is $1, but we start with dimes. And so it's not like going into a casino and lose a lot of money, but it's a lot of fun. We have dealer calls the game, so a lot of variations, but we have some rules to keep fair. So either of you play poker?
I don't play poker, but my kids who are in their 40s, I remember when they were almost 20 and they try to get in the casinos, and I always said, I hope they lose right off the bat. So, but the other thing I told my son the other day, he was invited to be in a very high-stakes poker game, and he turned it down. He said, Dad, I remember what you told me. He said, if you're at a poker game and you look around the table and you don't know who the sucker is, it's probably you. So he said, I remembered that, and I thought I would be the sucker.
I've played in other games that were higher stakes and a little more hardcore. And I've also played in party games that are totally silly and people are throwing money in the middle. This is somewhere in between. It's not silly, it's serious, but it's not high stakes, so it doesn't hurt it financially. So we don't have this, what a casino can do to players, take all their money because they're always chasing a win.
Yeah, that's the business they're in. Yeah. This is for fun and, just the camaraderie of it. Yeah. And it's nice to have a little competition too.
I like it. Neil, you go to all the luncheons and you were the president leading them. Do you have any fond memories of some good luncheons you want to tell us about?
Well, I think a couple of them. One, I can't remember her name.
I think it was Ditched at Sea was the name of the book, wasn't it?
She wrote a book. When she was younger, she got into becoming a ferry pilot, worked with a company that would take aircraft from Cessna and fly them to other parts of the world for delivery. And on her first trip out to Australia, the plane stopped working. And she had to ditch her plane in the ocean about 500 miles off of Hawaii. And there was another aircraft flying with her who kept in the area and kept her located. She got out of the plane after ditching it and got into a lifeboat and was finally rescued about 10 hours later by a Russian trawler.
That's quite a story, yeah.
It's quite a story, and it was very memorable, and she was very good at presenting it. I really enjoyed that one.
I did, too. She was a wonderful speaker, and it was just a compelling story. Very fascinating.
Yeah. Another one I enjoyed was the Vets with Vets. This is a Corvette club that one of our members is organized to combine with SIRS to help veterans of the wars to get recognized in a parade in Petaluma that is held regularly. And so the Corvette club members like showing off their car, and then he helps put signs on the doors to honor the vet who's sitting in the passenger seat.
There were several of us former veterans who rode in the parade. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I've never been at anything like that.
I also remember the presentation by Catholic Charities. I was very interested. They do an amazing job with a very difficult community that has a lot of issues and needs a lot of support. And Catholic Charities does a magnificent job. And of course, they have a wonderful facility that's actually very close to here. So they did a very interesting presentation. So yeah, I really love supporting them because I think they really bring something to the community that's really important.
And a lot of the club members now at the food bank.
That's once a month, and that is what we call a community involvement project. Until a few years ago, SIR didn't allow us to volunteer for other organizations because they thought it was violating our ban on supporting organizations. But after a lot of member outcry that they wanted to participate in some of these activities, SIR changed their policies and said, if it's just your time and you have a group in your branch that wants to go out and do some volunteer work, that's fine. What we don't do is we won't give them any monetary support.
I haven't been, but I really honor those people who make that. And I think it's another case where if you were by yourself in your home, not aware of an organization like SIR's, you might not even think of that you would enjoy helping other people. You might not have belonged to a church that does this or another organization. So this idea that retirement is easy, it can be, but it's more fun when you sign up to be with people.
Engaging is so important. There's something about having a purpose at this stage. And when you go through your career and you're pushing and you're working really hard and you have all this responsibility, there's a lot of value to that in terms of who you are and your self-esteem, and then to have that suddenly end. With SIRS, if you are inclined to be an organizer or you've had a lot of management experience and you enjoyed that, you definitely can have that opportunity. I think it gives people more of a purpose and a more of relevance, and I think that's what a lot of people fear is the loss of relevance at this point. So it's a wonderful opportunity.
10 years ago, I volunteered weekly for a whole year at the food bank. This was my pre-retirement days, and I enjoyed it, but since I've been volunteering with SIR at the food bank, it's a completely different situation. Before, I was just with a bunch of random people. Occasionally, I'd see somebody I recognized, but it didn't feel like a community. But when we show up with 25 or 30 members at the food bank, and they put us on an assembly line, we're working shoulder to shoulder with people that we know, it's a great feeling.
It's like a brigade.
It is.
I like that visualization.
Nothing like packing carrots together.
So we've talked a lot about how much SIRS offers, and we've talked about how men may not know that it exists.
Well, the easiest way is to Google it. If you just type SIR 17 in a Google search, you'll find our website, you'll find our Facebook page, and you'll find other information about us.
It's a very friendly way to get connected because you have a way to reach out and you can do an application right online, and then you'll get a phone call to help someone get connected and get started.
And often that phone call will be from you,
That's
Mike.
True. And you'll send me the information.
Yeah. What's clear to me is the members are bringing a lot of experience. And I think the best organization is one that has different personality types working together.
It's cool because obviously you get a very big cross-section of life experiences and professional experiences. So everybody brings value together.
Yeah, I could see what a lot of people's value are just by how you carry yourself in the front of the room and organizing and asking for volunteers for this. We need a photographer. It's all volunteer organized with people taking on leadership roles that they feel qualified for and that they're excited to do. So it's better than work, I think.
That is one of our difficulties, though, is that we all volunteer, even at the state level. And everybody who works almost full-time on SIR at the state level, they're volunteers. And that sometimes limits things. It makes it difficult to get the word out. We don't have the money for advertising campaigns. We're trying to do everything inexpensively. And so things like the website, you'll find some of our brochures in the libraries and at some grocery stores, occasionally in the community center. And whenever we get around to put them out there, there. One thing we did a couple of years ago is we have these little cards that talk about Sir. And we wandered around the county park. And in the county park, seniors have a special color-coded pass. So we were out putting cards on cars that had the senior pass.
I have to say that Neil has been just amazing in terms of his involvement in SIRS, being the big SIR, and now on the statewide level, he's part of the organization as well. So he's been tremendous in making it a really successful organization.
I'm impressed by it. I just wanted you to know that I'm very happy with the club. That's why I wanted you gentlemen here to help spread the word. I hadn't heard of SIRS. I've lived in the North Bay for 50 years with my wife. I know about Rotary. I've joined them. I know about Lions. I know about Elks, but I didn't know about SIRS. I think word of mouth is the important part here, right?
When you have no money, that's true.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was a QR code. I'm a little ticky. Are there big plans for the future that you know about?
Big plans for the future? I don't know. I guess we're going to continue to grow. We've been pretty successful over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
What you don't know is we reached our peak as most of SIR in the mid-1990s. And for the next 25 years, we were in decline. Our Branch 17 had 275 members in 1996. We fell to 78 members in 2021. So we decided that we were going to do something about it and started publicizing SIR. Because like you say, it's kind of like the best kept secret. They know about the Elks and they know about the Lions, but they don't know about SIR. And so we started getting information out. And like what you saw at our coffee club in Howarth Park, you saw the sign out there. But what you also see is a bunch of guys sitting out in lawn chairs in the park having a good time.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about what I saw and didn't recognize as SIRS. I used to live in the Burbank Garden area, and my wife and I would walk through Juilliard Park almost every other day. And we'd see the roses, nice stone bridge over the creek. And then we see the bocce ball courts. They were often used, and we'd see people having fun. And my wife would say, hey, you should join up. And I never knew how to approach him. And I said, one day when I'm looking for things to do, I might take up bocce ball. That was on the website. And sure enough, I got my chance to go there, was welcomed. And one of the sirs there helped me get oriented, scoring, bouncing the ball, good angles. He played a game with me just to help me get started. And by the end of that, I loved it.
You haven't been there that long, and you really engaged with SIR. And it sounds like you've done some walking and now the bocce. And I know you come to the luncheons. And are there any other activities that you're scoping out that you're thinking about?
I'm a bit obsessive compulsive. So whatever I get into, I dive into the deep end. Instead of telling you what else at the club that I do, that is Toastmasters. I've been there for a little over 3 years. I'm with the Petaluma group because that group fits my style, which is less traditional, a little more challenging, open-ended. I'm practicing speaking that is helpful for being on the radio, for talking to people on my message. I have a message that mostly people don't want to hear about. And I know that I turn people off by what I say about what we should be thinking about and how we should be preparing for the future. People don't want to hear that. They see it as gloom and doom. My son used to say to me, and I think he was right, Dad, it's not what you say, it's how you say it that causes people to react. I've been working on how to say it better. And I've been careful in SIRS when I get into a group to recognize early on that I'm starting a path that I tend to go on that is way beyond what people are comfortable hearing. So my goal with SIR is not to burn friendships,
right,
to learn how to keep it in, build a relationship, have fun, and then slowly put out some ideas.
I think that's a great message because I find I'm in the same situation. I don't agree with everybody when I play golf. I know politically I don't agree with everybody, and nor would they agree with me. But I kind of feel like the point of the experience is just to have the time together here, and I don't need to make everything about that. I look at it as an opportunity to get to know people that I maybe wouldn't know otherwise. I think that's something that's a good lesson for all of us when we get into a new group situation.
Yeah.
So I like the way you're handling that.
And it also speaks to the variety in the club. Some folks are further along in getting older and they can't hike as much, or they're having memory issues. Maybe we haven't suffered as some others have, but we can relate to it.
We have a couple of members, one that's 100.
Wow.
101 last week.
He was a vet from World War II, and I think aren't dues free after 100?
Yes.
But you don't have to $25.
That's
Wow.
right. We have some other members that are in their 90s.
A lot of them in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And some of them are very fit, right? They're
Yeah.
very active still.
But think of that. If they didn't have that opportunity, they get to hang out with young guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they didn't have Sir, it could be very isolating. But these 90-year-olds are very engaged, and what a wonderful thing for them to have that opportunity.
I've been in some retirement homes, and I'm very sad when I go through because I see people there sitting, waiting to make eye contact and waiting for someone to show up for them, that are very, very lonely. And so I worry about getting to that stage where I call it being warehoused. I don't like the way that happens in our society all too often. So if we're getting help, great, but we also got to get out.
Yeah. And at the lunch, if we have someone that's got some issues, we help them get their buffet lunch. So I think we really look out for that population as well.
You were talking about our member who's 100. He's pretty amazing. He stopped golfing at 98. So what does he do now? He writes an article for our newsletter every month. Tells stories about his past.
Most of us are wearing hearing aids. Most of us have glasses. And then we get some of the speakers speaking to issues that are important to us. We had an Alzheimer's speech, I understand. I look forward to it being a community that also helps us with practical things in our lives that we as seniors have to struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely. You're in a group that everybody's kind of dealing with the same things. You're not so isolated because of that.
I want to thank both of you, Neil and Mike,